When you're new to the gym, you may not know exactly which exercises to do and defer to social media influencers to find the best exercises. However, some may not be practical for beginners or even effective for building muscle.
My name is Jake, and today we'll be taking you through 12 popular exercises, ranking them based on 1, practicality for beginners, and 2, effectiveness for building muscle.
If the exercise isn't the best choice for a beginner, I'll give a substitute exercise more suitable for a beginner. Alright, so first we got the dumbbell bench press. The dumbbell bench press is a great exercise to learn, especially as a beginner, making sure they have the proper form, work on muscle imbalances, and really develop a chest. It's also good to learn because let's say you're doing the dumbbell bench press on your own. If you did have to bail for whatever reason, you could just drop the weights. As if you're on the barbell bench press, you don't have that opportunity. You need to have a spotter or else you're kind of screwed. So I really think the dumbbell bench press is a good exercise to learn as a beginner. Good for building muscle, and it's pretty practical once you get down the basics. So I'm going to put this in the S tier. All right, next up we got the barbell squat, and this is another great movement, a great compound exercise to learn as a beginner. And let's say you haven't actually done a barbell squat before. Doing a dumbbell squat is a great way to learn the squat movement and then move on over to the barbell once you nail down the dumbbell squat. But yeah, the barbell squat, great movement to learn as a beginner. And just because it's a little unsafe and you got to have the coordination to unrack it and put it back, especially if you don't have a spotter, I'm going to put this in the A tier. All right, next we got the chest supported dumbbell row. You may have seen this a lot in the gym. Doing the chest supported row is a great movement to develop the back, great for building muscle. You have the stability. It's just the issue with the chest supported dumbbell row is really getting set up into the position that you need to be in, which is tough for a lot of beginners. So it kind of knocks down the practicality scale, but definitely still good for building muscle. So if you did have a chest supported T-bar row in your gym, that would actually be a better alternative for a beginner to do basically the same movement. But again, I think the dumbbell row is still a solid exercise to learn. But just because it's pretty impractical to set up, I am going to knock it down a little bit lower than what I would originally have put it. So I'm going to put it at C tier. All right, next on the list, we have the lunge and curl. So you've probably seen this on social media a lot just to be more efficient with your workout. You're curling and you're doing the lunge at the same time, so working your biceps and your legs. Kind of advertised more as a toning exercise because you're doing higher reps, you're doing lighter weight, but as we know now, that's not exactly how you tone a muscle. Lift heavy weight, close to muscular failure, and that's how you'll gain some muscle. So this isn't necessarily a bad exercise to learn as a beginner, but as you progress, you're going to notice that really actually no matter what level you're at, your legs are going to lift more weight than your biceps. So this is very not a practical exercise to grow muscle. What you really should be doing here is just doing a dumbbell split squat or a lunge and then standing bicep curls. Keeping it simple, lift heavy weight, work close to muscular failure. So they actually don't even have that on this tier list. I just got dumbbell lunges. This is going in the D tier. All right, next up we have a popular exercise. You've probably seen this a lot on social media. Good for cardio, pretty much non-existent for building muscle if you are trying to target the core. Practical beginners, yes, get you tired, but for building muscle, it's pretty low on the scale. With that said, the mountain climbers are in the D tier. All right, moving right along, we have the barbell hip thrusts. And this is kind of a awkward exercise if you've never done it before. It's targeting the glutes, the posterior chain, but this movement is pretty difficult to initially learn. It is a solid exercise for building your glutes. Not very practical for a beginner. I would recommend starting off with either just a simple dumbbell bridge or doing a dumbbell hip thrust. Get the movement down, make sure that the tempo's right, everything looks good, and then you can progress up to the hip thrusts. Also noted, if you don't have Olympic plates, then if you can't even do 135, which is 245-pound weights on each side, you can't even roll the bar up onto your hip because the weights aren't big enough. So that's another kind of inconvenience. It's a very good for building muscle, but with that said, it's not very practical for a beginner. So I'm going to rank this a B. All right, next we have another popular leg exercise, the Bulgarian split squats, and these are pretty difficult to even set up. The feet placement, where to put the front, the back foot, how far down you go, where should your torso be. So there's a lot of technicalities to it, so not exactly practical for a beginner. And these are also pretty difficult even with no dumbbells in your hands. So for beginner, I would start you off doing the regular split squats, the regular dumbbell split squats, whether it be with some dumbbells or without. Get the tempo down, get the form down, build your glutes, build your quads, and then you could eventually move up to the Bulgarian split squats. But overall, for building muscle, practicality, for the Bulgarian split squats, I'm going to put this in the C tier. All right, moving right along, we got to hit the arms. So the biceps on the cable curl. And the cable curl is a pretty simple movement. Just make sure that your elbows are right by your side and you're curling right up without bringing your elbows up too high in the movement. So pretty easy for a beginner to learn, and it's definitely good for building the biceps. So with that said, I'm going to put this in the A tier. All right, now the other side of the arm, the triceps push down, another pretty simple exercise, maybe a little more technical because you do need to have a slight lean forward in your torso and making sure that your elbows are right by your side as you're doing the movement. So a little less practical for beginners, but definitely nothing too crazy. And this is definitely good for building muscle. So just because it's a little less practical than the biceps curl on the cable, I'm going to put this in the B tier. All right, now we got the shoulders. Shoulders, we have the dumbbell lateral raise. It is a solid movement to learn for a beginner. The one thing you really have to learn here is to not use too heavy weight and not use your whole body to move the weights up and down. You really got to isolate the shoulders and making sure that you're targeting the muscle that you want to work. So with that said, I'm going to put this in the B tier. All right, let's go back to legs. Let's go dumbbell RDL. So this is a pretty challenging movement to learn. And if you don't know how to hip hinge, this is something that will take a little bit to learn. But this is a great exercise to work the posterior chain. And I would highly recommend any beginner learn this. It's going to take time to actually progress up in weight. So just because it's pretty difficult to learn, but still very good for building muscle, I'm going to have to put this in the C tier. All right, rounding off the list, we got the core, the abdominal muscles. We're doing the cable crunch. The cable crunch is a solid exercise to work your core. Make sure that you're actually crunching as opposed to just pulling the weight straight to the ground, which in that case, you wouldn't really be working your core. So with that said, solid for building muscle, just takes a little bit to learn. I'm going to put this in the C tier. All right, guys, thanks for watching today's video. I hope you got some value out of it. If you've been in the gym a while and maybe you agree or disagree with the tier list, let me know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time.